What is up, guys? Rick Cacus here, and Destiny is dying. Destiny is dead. How can you play such a trash game? Sorry, I'm just giving you guys a little bit of a taste of the comment section. Now, although some of the people making those type of comments are definitely trolls, others do have legitimate concerns. There's been several times within Destiny's history that the community has said this game is dying. And I do mean several times, and that's why the topic for today's video is, why does Destiny keep dying? Why does the community call out in outrage of this game only a few months after a large content release? So, let's get started. But before we do, guys, if you enjoy this video, find this topic interesting, please remember to support this video by liking, commenting, and especially sharing. It's a simple thing to do, but it really helps me out. So again, let's get started. And the first thing I'm going to do, somewhat to the behest of the fanboys, is I'm actually going to defend Destiny just a little bit here. I'm going to defend it because at the base of my heart, I am a Destiny fan. Like, I wouldn't be making these type of videos if I didn't care. If I didn't care about this game, I wouldn't care if it died. It'd just die and I'd move on. But I do care about this game, and that's why, again, I'm going to defend it just for a little bit. I think, in fairness to Bungie, in fairness to Destiny, this game is just getting a little old, and that's no one's fault. You know, it's not Bungie's fault, it's just we're in our third year here, and it makes sense that this game is nowhere near as fresh for a lot of people as it once was. And things are just getting a little bit tiresome. The weapon system, just how you play the game, etc. And again, in fairness to Bungie, some of those things they just can't address without remaking the game. That's what Destiny 2, hopefully, is going to do. A lot of these universal problems built into Destiny since day one will hopefully be reimagined and addressed when the proper Destiny 2 sequel comes out. And finally, that sequel is on the horizon for a reported fall 2017 release, just for those of you who might not know. So that is exciting. And again, it is totally understandable that a lot of people are just going to get sick of Destiny at this point. There's nothing wrong with playing other games. Although I don't post a ton of other games, I play a ton of other games. The Witcher 3, Call of Duty Black Ops 3 of all games I've kind of been getting back into, Magic Duels, Battlefield 1. I play a ton of different games because no one's saying that Destiny has to keep you entertained 24/7. It's okay to try other things. It's okay to take breaks. Now, with all of that being said, and I think that makes up for a certain portion of the, quote-unquote outrage about this game dying. However, there's another very large portion, and why I'm making this video, that is completely legitimate. There has definitely been huge ups and downs. Destiny is a roller coaster with the community. We have huge highs when new content comes out. Everyone is hyped for the game. Everyone is turning up, enjoying this new content. And we have huge lows where the community is really at odds with each other, where people are very negative. People are unhappy with the state of the game. And this is not good. I mentioned earlier, Destiny 2 is on the horizon. But do we really want the same thing that's happening now in Destiny with this massive roller coaster with, time between content offerings is barren and people are just freaking out and not happy about the state of the game? Do we want that to happen again in Destiny 2? No, right? So that's why today we're going to talk about a lot of the things that Bungie could do differently to prevent Destiny from dying, because we're going to analyze why exactly, again, Destiny keeps dying. First and foremost, have you guys heard the expression, same shit, different day? Because that, in a nutshell, is Destiny. I mean, they have added some new stuff. We're going to talk about that in a sec, but like right now, this instant, think about what you can do in Destiny. Alright, well, if you get a team together, you can play the raid, but a lot of people don't have that option, so what else are you going to do? Well, there's PvP, there's strikes, and that kind of covers most things. Now, there are some niche things. You can play the story mode again, I guess, if you want. You can do Archon's Forge, etc. But, the big things are, as I've mentioned. You can do the raid, PvP, strikes. That is exactly what you're asking yourself. when this game first came out in September 2014. In September 2014, you were asking yourself the same thing in Destiny. Do I want to do the raid? At that time, it was the Vault of Glass. Or do I want to do some PvP? Or do I want to do some strikes? Right? That shows kind of a lack of evolution within Destiny. Now again, granted there has been some stuff added. For PvP, Trials of Osiris was a huge new addition. Gotta give props where props is due, because Trials of Osiris, wasn't in the game when it first came out. It was added with the House of Wolves expansion, and it's been a huge hit. I mean, people show up by the thousands on the weekend to watch streamers do Trials runs and Trials carries, right? It's a hugely popular aspect of Destiny. Other new things that have been added, the Prison of Elders is a new content offering. It wasn't in the game when it first came out. We have the Archon's Forge, as I've mentioned, and its previous iteration with the Court of Oryx. So certainly new things have been added. Unfortunately, one of the biggest problems is that although yes, new things are being added, things are being left to become irrelevant at the same pace. There's only one relevant raid, which is the Wrath of the Machine. King's Fall, yes, you can get infusible stuff, but not too many people are playing it as of yet, and even the people who want to play it and get those weapons so that they can infuse them upwards, there's still some decent weapons in King's Fall. I mean, good luck getting a team together. People are having hard times getting teams together for the most recent raid, let alone the older raids. And then we have Crota's End and the Vault of Glass, which are irrelevant. The gear you get, you cannot infuse up to the current light levels. It sits idly, it just isn't part of the PvP meta, so no one's going to use it there, and it's totally useless in PvE. And this, I think, is one of the larger problems. When Bungie adds something new like the Prison of Elders, and by the way, I enjoy the Prison of Elders. I think it's pretty fun. I think with a few changes it could be really, really fun, and it's a nice differentiation in gameplay experience than a normal strike from the raid, etc. But they add something new like the Prison of Elders in the House of Wolves, and it becomes irrelevant when the next expansion, The Taken King, comes out. So it's totally useless for about a year, and then finally we get it updated with the April update. But almost just as soon as it's updated and finally it's relevant again, you can get some okay gear from it again. They have the strike scoring system, but in the Prison of Elders with the Challenge of the Elders. That's kind of, I think, where strike scoring, they got the idea for it. But in any event, it is relevant for just a little while, and then the Rise of Iron comes out, it's irrelevant again. It just isn't dropping high enough light gear. So that is very unfortunate. Now yes, you can play all these things for fun, alright? But we're not talking about doing it for fun. Game development common sense states that you have to have a reason to make people play. You have to have a motivating factor to make people play. We're going to talk a lot more about that motivating factor and why it's often lacking in a sec, but Bungie's unwillingness to constantly update their content means that your choices for what to play and what to do are very limited. And because Destiny is such a cooperative game and a lot of activities don't even let you matchmake for them, it's going to be very hard to convince people to play a raid that gives them no worthwhile gear. But not only does Destiny not get enough new things, and not only are those new things made irrelevant all too often, but also there's huge gaps in content. Think about this. If I beat the Wrath of the Machine raid, the new cool raid for the first time, okay, I get some sweet gear, maybe I do it on hard mode for the first time, let's say that, I get the Steel Modella Pulse Rifle, I'm rocking with all of my sweet new Wrath of the Machine gear, I'm a higher light level, what now? Seriously ask that question, what now? You beat the raid on hard mode, you get a bunch of new gear, what are you supposed to do differently? Really, when you think about it, the new raid gear's purpose is just to make it easier to play the raid again. Right? That doesn't really bode well for a healthy game. Aside from playing the new raid again, what else are you going to do? Well, you could take that gear into PvP, except for right now, the current meta, none of the current Wrath of the Machine weapons are doing so hot in the PvP meta, and Bungie refuses to have sandbox updates in less than, it seems, 200 days. In fact, we've had, I think, 140 days with no buffs and nerfs, so yeah, that's not great. But again, that gear isn't so good in the current PvP meta, okay, so you can't use it there. What else are you gonna do? Strikes? I mean, you've already been doing tons and tons of strikes. I'm sure you've been doing strikes to get your light level high enough just so you could play the raid, and after you get that new raid gear, you're just gonna be able to beat those strikes a little bit faster. Yay! You know what I mean? There isn't that next step that I believe Destiny needs. If this game had a wave survival mode, like a proper wave survival mode, and we had leaderboards and all that stuff, you would be dying to get your hands on the best of the best gear from the raid, because that would really help you out in the wave survival mode. You could maybe only get to round 15 before you do the raid. Now after the raid, you're getting to round 20. That's a great example of how this increase in your gear could actually help you in other events. And that's exactly what I'm talking about also with Destiny needs new things. We've had this same dichotomy of doing the raid just so you can do the raid again easier since this game came out all the way in September 2014. It's again a lack of evolution. I mean, even when we look at Destiny's competitor in The Division, every time The Division gets an expansion, it adds something totally new. The first expansion, the Underground DLC, added the entirely new Underground mode. It was this very complicated new mode. You went into these randomly generated dungeons. You could select how many different areas it had. You could select the difficulty, etc. Then it added the Survival expansion, where it added the entirely new Survival mode, where you start out with no gear and you have to scavenge your way to getting a decent enough build that you can get into the Dark Zone, kill enemies, get a virus pathogen, and then you fight your way to extract out of the Dark Zone. Survival mode is fun for anyone who hasn't played it. Like, I played survival mode and I had a blast, and it's something totally new. The Division is getting something else totally new with their new announced expansion, The Last Stand. Too many of Destiny's content offerings have just added more of the same rather than anything truly different. I mean, just look at the Rise of Iron expansion. The only truly new thing it added, aside from a new story mode, which you play once and never play again, and that's, again, Bungie's fault. They could have made it so that you can increase the difficulty of the story mode to actually match your level. They could have story mode exclusive gear to make people play, all of that stuff, but that's a different point we're going to get into in a sec. But again, the only truly new thing the Rise of Iron added was the Archon's Forge as an activity that you can do. And the Archon's Forge is decently fun. I'm not going to bash on the Archon's Forge too much, because I like it, but that's it. They added some new strikes, but there's still strikes. It's very understandable that people just got sick of the new content offering because, again, same shit, different day. But something else that we need to talk about, and another huge factor in why Destiny keeps quote-unquote dying, is that not only do you need things to do and things to play, but you need reasons to play. That part is huge, and it's something that too often Bungie misses out on. A great example of this is Destiny's most recent live event with The Dawning. What reasons to play did it add? Well, one is the icebreaker. And seriously, think about that. I kind of, challenged a few people. I made a video a while back saying that exotics might be too easy to get. There was a lot of very spoiled Year 2 players, I will say, in that video. At one point, there was no such thing as an exotic quest. It was just an exotic bounty that you would get that would lead you on some kind of quest. But it was purely RNG. Now you can go out, do specific things, and get exotics. That is great. But the icebreaker. People were complaining that the icebreaker was too hard to get, that they've played the game, they just couldn't get the icebreaker, and I feel ya. The icebreaker is hidden behind some pretty hardcore RNG. A lot of people are not happy with how hard it is to get, and I think maybe it should be a little bit more easy to get, but, would you be playing Destiny without the icebreaker? And I think a lot of people, I kind of challenged them in the comment section, and a lot of people went, oh shit, you're kind of right. Because the fact that the icebreaker is a very powerful, very desirable piece of loot gives people a reason to play. The only reason I was playing Nightfalls 3 times a week every week was to get my hands on the icebreaker. If that wasn't added into the game, I would not have the motivation to do that. Bungie needs to do this more often, not hide something behind RNG. That's not what I'm saying, but what I am saying is Bungie needs to add more of this desirable loot, more exotics that you can go for and earn. Because aside from the icebreaker and the Nova Mortis and the Abaddon, which are frankly kind of a joke to get, there was no weapons added. Like, I've been on this forever. It was one of my first questions. It was one of my first complaints about the Dawning, but there was no new weapons added. And because of this, look at how fast the community has said Destiny is dying again. People were saying it while the Dawning was still here. Compare that to the April update, when they added a bunch new desirable year 1 weapons to the Vanguard Quartermaster, to the Crucible Quartermaster, and they added new weapons in general with chromas to go and earn. There was reasons to play. In the Dawning, what are your reasons to play right now? What are you really trying to earn? The icebreaker, maybe the new armor sets that come with Zavala bounties, but that's really it, and we're just getting pretty thin here. There isn't a lot of desirable content that people want to go out and earn, and that is a huge downside of Bungie's most recent DLCs. And it's not just about adding new weapons, it's about adding the right weapons. Like I said earlier with the April update, it added back, kind of for the first time, some really desirable, really good year 1 weapons. The LDR, the longbow synthesis. These things are no joke. They are highly competitive, both good in PvP and in PvE, so they're really desirable pieces of loot. And something else that makes a piece of loot desirable is making it new. Truly new. We haven't had any truly new weapons, honestly, since the Taken King. And you may be saying, what do you mean by truly new? I mean actually differentiated from what you have in the game right now. You want to know why people didn't find, the Rise of Iron that different feeling, why they got sick of it rather early? It's because no truly new weapons were added. Every single weapon added in the Rise of Iron existed already in the game in the form of already existing weapons of the same damage archetype. I've said this before, but guys, we've had, since the Destiny Alpha, the same 3 auto rifle archetypes. The slow shooting ones, the fast shooting ones, and the medium ones. We have never seen an auto rifle in between these, and there is so much design space. The slow shooting ones are like 450 rounds per minute, the medium ones are I think around 600, and the fast shooting ones are 900. Why isn't there a 750 round per minute assault rifle? That actually would seem pretty good. Why isn't there like an 1000 or 1100 really fast shooting assault rifle? Or sorry, not even assault rifle, auto rifle. Sorry, I've been playing Call of Duty. But there really is no reason for this. And before anyone gets in the comments and is like, but that would be overpowered, you just adjust the damage so that it perfectly equals an acceptable time to kill. Very easy to do. Like, we're not talking about really hard stuff to do. And because Bungie refuses to add any new damage archetypes to the auto rifles and the scout rifles and the pulse rifles and pretty much every gun type, we have seen these archetypes exist since the alpha. They've never been broken. There's never been new ones added, with the one exception being Haka pulse rifles. They shoot in bursts of 4. Normally, pulse rifles shoot in bursts of 3. That was the literally one time Bungie experimented with the existing damage archetypes. We need more of this, for goodness sakes. It's ridiculous that every other example of every other gun type between every other foundry has the exact same rate of fire and damage. A huge reason people get sick of this game is because just even subconsciously, they're using the same gun they've been using for 3 years now. It's time for Bungie to experiment, to actually add some new damage archetypes, for God's sakes. Now, in fairness to Bungie, however, they have added some new gun types. Melee weapons and sidearms were great. Without them in the Taken King, that would have kind of fallen by the wayside, I think, a lot sooner too. But because there was these new, really desirable pieces of loot, especially with the melee weapons. Like, certain melee weapons, they aren't even that good in a lot of different scenarios, but they're new, and they're swords, and they're awesome, and you spin around and do fun stuff. Of course everyone's gonna want them. And the sidearms too. Sidearms weren't even that, they're alright, and people still like them. I have a few sidearm classes, don't get me wrong, but they aren't even that massively effective, but people still went after them because they were new, because Bungie actually added something completely new to Destiny. I wish they did more of that, and in fact, they need to do more of that in Destiny 2. They can't just add, what is really, if you peel back all the veneer, all of how the weapons look, what is really like 12 weapons in the game that they just keep adding slightly different versions of that. They need to actually and properly expand Destiny's arsenal. Because if you do add a new auto rifle archetype, if that was actually added in the Rise of Iron, that would be big news. Like, people would be going forth and getting and testing even down to the blue versions of these new auto rifles, because they are in a completely different damage archetype. You want to see where they're good, which scenarios they're good, which maps are good. People would have sunk way more playtime into experimenting with these new auto rifles of this new archetype than they did with no new archetypes added in actuality. And that is, again, just with the new archetypes. Imagine if Bungie added SMGs as a new gun type, or heavy sniper rifles, or plasma cannons, or something completely different, laser rifles as a new gun type. Holy fucking shit. Can you just, seriously, imagine if they added laser rifles, an entirely new primary gun type, or grenade launchers as an entirely new heavy gun type. The amount of playtime people would be putting to getting and trying out these new weapons would be so much more than it was in actuality. So that's something that Bungie really needs to step up and do in Destiny 2. They can't just, again, add a bunch of stuff in the beginning and then just have slightly different versions of everything for 3 years. We need actually different and actually substantial things to play, and also reasons to play when content is being added to the Destiny franchise. But the last thing Bungie, and especially Activision, needs to do if they want to stop the cycle of dying, and this is very important, is that they need to prioritize the health of the game. And here's what I'm talking about. Think about exotic ornaments. Exotic ornaments are really cool looking. Like, they actually make certain weapons look fantastic, and therefore they're pretty desirable. Unfortunately, they're hidden within microtransactions, and now you can just outright buy them, I think, from the Eververse store. So the chase to go and get them just isn't there anymore. Imagine if exotic ornaments were added into Destiny, but they were treated like gun camos from Call of Duty, where you actually had to utilize the weapon to unlock them. Imagine if you had the Mida multi-tool, and one of the exotic ornaments had you get, 200 headshots in total, and the other one had you get 100 double kills, and maybe a third one had you get 100 kills within the Crucible. That would be awesome. Now, of course, those aren't the exact numbers, but how awesome would it be for veteran players, for people to sink time into, if exotic ornaments were earnable through in-game actions? Again, like weapon camos in Call of Duty. That, I think, would have been a pretty beneficial thing for Destiny, something great for people to sink their time into. And Activision and Bungie can't pass up these opportunities to do something cool like that just so they can have more microtransactions and make an easy buck. Because at the end of the day, that's not prioritizing the health of Destiny. So guys, that's going to start to wrap up today's video. A little bit of a longer video. I'm looking at the recording time now. But, I tend to make longer videos because I like what I do and I'm passionate about games and gaming and Destiny. So, I like to talk about this stuff with you guys. And I hope you guys like listening as well. Now, if you guys enjoyed this video, please remember to support it. Liking, commenting, and especially sharing. Shout out to everyone who shares these videos on Twitter. It really helps me out. Now, if you guys want to see more Destiny content, don't be afraid to slap that subscribe button. And I would highly recommend also pressing the bell beside subscribe. In fact, if you want subscribing to actually do what subscribing should do, aka you want to be notified of new uploads, you actually have to press that bell. Pressing subscribe doesn't actually do anything in 2017 YouTube, but aside from that, guys, if you want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter at RickCacus. That's linked in the description down below, as is my Twitch channel, which you can also follow. Again, I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, have a good day.